Self-care made simple. In this video, I'll be giving you a summary of self-care, what it is, what it isn't, and simple techniques so you can add more of it into your life. Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jennifer, and I'm an integrative nutritionist and executive wellness coach at JENuine Nutrition, where I help leaders reconnect with themselves and become more balanced beings through spiritual, personal, and leadership development. All right, so since today is Valentine's Day, and Valentine's Day being synonymous with love, I thought, why not let's highlight self-care, because self-care is actually an action of self-love. And although I don't, celebrate Valentine's Day, because I am of the notion that we should be celebrating love for others and for ourselves 365, I was like, let's highlight self-care so people can actually add more self-love into their lives, okay? This is because everybody's priorities are all out of whack, okay? So people have their house, their cars, their shoes, their bags, everything is on that priority list, and then they have themselves at the very bottom. And this is one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about self-care, because here is a reminder, y'all. Self-care is healthcare. Write that down. Self-care is healthcare, okay? And the more that you take care of yourself, the less you are going to be in the hospital and having to utilize this so-called healthcare that we have here in the States, right? So literally, taking care of yourself is a form of healthcare. So write that down. Self-care is healthcare. And here's the thing. Self-care is very cost and time effective, okay? It can cost 5 minutes to $5. That's how long it can take you, or how little it can cost you, okay? So that you can pour into yourself and feel rejuvenated. So we're going to get into all of that in this video, so stay tuned. All right, so let's get started. What is self-care? All right, so really when you break down the word is kind of self-explanatory. It's self and how you're taking care of self, right? So it's self-care. How are you taking care of yourself? Like, we literally just overcomplicate this stuff, and the meaning is in the word in of itself, right? Really, self-care is about charging your battery, doing those things that charge your battery and not drain your battery, right? And the idea is to really prioritize and make time for yourself. That's what self-care is, because you make time for everything else. Why aren't you making time for yourself? Okay, so remember, self-care broken down, how you take care of yourself. It's the things that charge your battery and not drain it. And then really the pivotal point to remember, it's about prioritizing and making time for yourself, because everybody's like, oh, I don't got time, or this and this and that. Yes, you do. You have time. You make time for everything else. So why not make time for yourself? Now, let's hop into what self-care is not. Self-care is not selfish. So let's just get that out of the way and get that out of the window right now, because people who think that self-care is selfish, we need to change that paradigm, because if self-care is selfish, then I am very selfish and very proud of it. And I coach my clients to be selfish because we have so many people who, that's why a lot of people are burnt out, honestly, because they're giving, and they're not pouring into themselves. You can only give so much, right? You know the adage, you can't pour from an empty cup. That is very true with self-care. So self-care is not selfish. It's actually very selfless, because the more you pour into yourself, the more you can give to others, okay? Self-care does not have to be too involved or complicated. Again, this industry, the wellness industry, and all these influencers have just made it too involved and complicated, and it's not. And another thing is, it doesn't have to be expensive, right? So you don't have to go get that $300 massage. Even though massages, I definitely recommend massages. They are very good for the lymphatic system. It's a great way to kind of decompress. However, you don't have to spend $300 as a form of self-care. So that's why I really wanted to do this video, because a lot of people think that self-care has to be indulgent, when I really think of, like, manicures and pedicures. Yes, that's a form of self-care. But self-care doesn't always have to cost, like, $30, $40, or $300, right? So it doesn't have to be expensive, and it doesn't have to be too involved or complicated. So here are some simple self-care habits that I want you to think about. I really want you to know that self-care is very similar to our habits, and our habits tell our stories about how we live our lives. Just how we take care of ourselves tells us a story about how we're taking care of ourselves, right? So if you look at your self-care right now, what story is that telling about yourself, right? And then also your daily personal habits. What story are you telling with those habits, right? That about your life. And here's the thing, guys, self-care really is all about expression and nurturing the parts of us that matter the most. That's really what it is. Again, going back to charging your battery, it's thinking about those things that give us expression, that help us nurture and really charge our batteries for those most meaningful parts of ourselves. And here's the thing, I want you to think about self-care like habits and hobbies. When you think about self-care like habits and hobbies, that can maybe shift things for you a little bit so that it doesn't have to be so complicated or involved. So what are some self-care habits? All right, self-care habits, number one is sleep. Although these are don't have to be numbered, but this is just how they came out, right? So self-care habit is sleep. So sleep is a form of self-care. Are you prioritizing your sleep? Are you prioritizing your body being able to readjust and rejuvenate itself, right? That's part of self-care, getting proper amounts of sleep, those 7 to 9 hours. Number two is cooking is also a form of self-care, right? Cooking your own food. I always used to say that when I was on social media, like cooking your own food, having autonomy of what you're putting into your body is a form of self-care. And how you are feeding your body is also a form of self-care. So not only is cooking a form of self-care, how you eat is a form of self-care, because do you have a daily habit of going to the drive-through and getting that fast food, knowing that it's not great for your body? Remember, your body is a temple, and how you care for it is a form of self-care and self-love. That's what I always teach. People don't make that connection. That's literally what it is. So how you're feeding yourself, again, is how you feel about yourself, and I think I have a video about that, so definitely go check that out, okay? Number three is limiting your caffeine consumption or any other stimulant that brings you up but then crashes you down. So if you have a coffee consumption or any other kind of caffeine consumption or habit that really brings you up and then brings you down, you definitely want to minimize that. Moving your body is actually a form of self-care as well too. So moving your body, staying active, like I said, an active body is a healthy body. Our bodies were not meant to be sitting for like 18 hours from the car to the office and then back to the couch. Your body moving, agile, all of that means for a longevity and an overall a better overall quality of life. And then another habit that you can consider a form of self-care is a clean home environment. So how you have your home can definitely affect your mental and emotional health, right? So if you have a clean home, things are lifted and light, you have flowers, right? So definitely do those things, again, that lift your spirits, and a clean home environment is definitely one of those habits, all right? Now, when it comes to hobbies, like what are your hobbies? What's charging you? What's filling your cup? Again, think of self-care like a hobby, habits and hobbies, all right? Journaling, reading. Now, you already know I'm a huge proponent of journaling. I was already about to go on to the next one, but journaling is really, really important. So make sure you're starting a journaling habit or hobby. I definitely have a video about that, so make sure you go watch that. Reading is a hobby. I love reading. I have a whole library. So make sure you do some reading, listening to music that lifts your spirits and your mood, golf or tennis or any other kind of activity that's part of your movement. Painting, again, it's whatever that fills your or charges your battery and fills you up, okay? Because again, the more you fill up your cup, the more you can help others and fill their cup, okay? Even though others have to also fill their own cup, okay? So in conclusion, too often we really make these things more complicated than they need to be. Social media just makes it more complicated. All the data and all this makes it more complicated. Self-care broken down is literally how you're simply taking care of yourself and how you're pouring into yourself. And guess what? You get to choose what that looks like for you, not anybody else. So whatever you want it to be, it's yours, okay? And remember, self-care is healthcare and self-care is self-love, right? So how will you add more self-care and self-love into your life and not just on Valentine's Day, okay? Well, that is it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.